Democrats are to blame.
Is why won't Trump scramble to help Americans put food on the table? That is part of the question that is being asked. He just acknowledged that there was an effort to find money for other things. He was also asked this weekend about the fact that grocery prices have gone up, and here's what he said.
When the stock market is doing well, that doesn't affect everybody. Not everybody's invested in the stock market.
It does.
But there have been grocery
Your
prices are up.
401ks, people have 401ks. Their 401ks are double what they were a year ago.
But for people that don't have 401ks or are not invested in the stock market,
but
they've seen their grocery prices go up. Inflation.
No, you're wrong. They went up under Biden. Right now, they're going down. Other than beef, which we're working on, which we can solve very quickly.
So he's wrong about that. Grocery prices have gone up. From a political and from a practical perspective, why won't Trump have the same energy for people who need to just eat, just like a basic need, as he does for other priorities of his?
Well, I spent the day, Abby, talking to women from around the country, and including a woman who has a small business in which she and her sister clean people's houses. That's her job, and she feeds her family with it. Another woman has a tiny house, in New Jersey, whose electricity bill has gone up to $600 a month, and she can't afford it. Certainly, there's concerns. And when I was talking to Patty, the woman in Kentucky, she's a Trump voter, and I said to her, I said, tell me what's going on. And I said, how are you feeling about the economy? And I expected everything to be rah-rah, right? I thought it should be like, and she did say, I love President Trump. She said, but you need to know that the gas is great, like gas has come down, but my goodness, like Halloween candy was $40 for an entire bag, and it's difficult. This is Eastern Kentucky. This is my hometown of that part of the country, and so it's Appalachia. It is rough, but she said that she would vote for President Trump again, and she believed that he was going to be able to juice up the market, that again we were going to be able to return to the Trump economy. She said she would vote for him again if she had the chance. She was a supporter of President Trump. They trust him. They believe in him. He delivered for them before. They think he's going to again. Yes, there's work to be done for sure. And I agree with Scott. The Democrats have to get the government open. We cannot continue. You can't mix apples and oranges. The ACA is one issue. The federal budget is another issue. Let's get this done.
Yeah.
You're saying we can't mix apples and oranges, and that's exactly what they're doing. The entire reason the government is not open right now is because Democrats refuse to be complicit in having millions of Americans, including 100,000 in Kentucky, your home state, if I'm remembering correctly, Scott, that rely on ACA, that would see their premiums rise several
which you can deal with separately. It doesn't have to be, those two things do not go together.
But the way that they're doing this right now, they're combining both.
Voting to support the budget still doesn't, if you keep it closed, doesn't fix the ACA. The ACA needs to be reformed. Healthcare needs to be reformed. This is a way
You guys failed at that last time. The whole thing was
It's a bigger
replace. You had a trifecta. You tried this. You failed.
That's
so
not
did
true.
you.
They're still in the
So did you.
concept of a plan stage.
No, in terms
They've
of
been in the
repealing and
concept
replacing.
stage since 2000.
But David, you would admit that the ACA was a Democrat legislation, yes? And you would admit that the subsidies that we're talking about now were passed by Democrats, yes? And you would admit that the sunset provision in the subsidies, which comes up at the end of the year, was in place because of Democrats, yes? Now you want to make it a Republican problem. These are not the same issues. You could open the government today, and then you could negotiate with with Republicans about ACA stuff. And by the way, my suspicion is, and you know this, there are probably, and I know there are some House Republicans that would love to negotiate on it, but under duress, under a hostage-taking situation, connecting disconnected issues, and now you're throwing SNAP onto it, you're throwing all the federal workers who aren't being paid onto it, all because of this fight that you wandered into because of your wing of the Democratic Party. You all led to this SNAP crisis. You all led to this crisis of the government being closed, and you don't know how to get out of it.
So look, as you come in, Leah, just to know, in the same CNN poll, Trump's approval rating on his handling of the government shutdown is at 25%. 61% of Americans disapprove of how he's handling this issue. So, I don't even know. I mean, Trump has been effectively MIA on this, and maybe intentionally so. but the American people don't apparently think that he is playing a constructive role.
Correct, and I think that this is the problem that the president has, either wandered into or boxed himself into. He's had plenty to say on Republican shutdowns, on Democrat-led shutdowns over the years. When he's been out of the White House, he has had a lot to say about the responsibility of the president that is in power, or the president and the parties that are in power in terms of shutdown. In fact, he's effectively said that it's the president's fault, it's the president's responsibility. So here we are back in this moment. The other thing beyond this, though, I think, is that irrespective of, we can sit up here and say this person is responsible, this party is responsible, it's the American people that are making the decision. And the American people have been very clear that they blame the president of the United States for the shutdown, they blame the Republican Party for the shutdown, and they are very angry about the state of the economy. And this is a thing I think that the president has to watch out for and should be very careful about. Part of the reason that he is back in office is because of this disconnect between the American people and the state of the economy. One of the things that the Biden administration used to love to say was, well, look at how the stock market is performing. Look at how the economy is performing. And we were saying over and over ago that there's a disconnect between what the American people are feeling on the ground and the way that the markets are performing, right? People are talking about groceries, they're talking about gas. Well, guess what? 9 months later, people are still talking about groceries. They're still talking about gas.
They're not talking
But this-
about gas.
They're
Gas is at a 4-year low.
it depends on what part of the country you're in. But
Yeah,
they're
in
talking
California,
about,
it's really high, but everywhere else.
but they're also talking about eggs. They are talking about
Eggs
the
are low.
cost. Eggs are not low.
Eggs are low.
Have you been to a grocery store around here?
His
Eggs
Rolex
are low.
probably.
I mean, eggs
I'm
are
gonna,
not
I'm
low.
gonna, I'm gonna
I'm
fact
sorry.
check after the show, and you're gonna be surprised.
$8.99 for eggs
False.
is not low. But
Get
what
ready,
I'm saying
get
is,
ready for the
Eggs are
the American people disagree with that, and they blame it very squarely.
If you guys think it's a good
Hold
idea,
on.
if you guys think it's a good idea,
We've been through this before. Eggs are lower than they were when Trump came into office, but not year over year. So they're
Eggs
that
are
is
very
that's
cheap
a
right
fact.
now.
the point,
Go ahead,
They're
Jared.
cheap.
the point that I want to reiterate is that it sounds almost as if you guys did not learn the lesson that Democrats should have learned after the 2024 election, which is that if people are saying that that they feel like the economy is not getting better, if your approval rating is continuing to fall, right now, 75% of just 18 to 29-year-olds do not approve of the Trump presidency and how he is doing in his job. You can go and tell people all you want about the stock market. We've tried that. It did not work.
Well, if I
right?
could,
You can't change
if I
people's
may.
reality if you're just saying, look at this chart, you shouldn't feel this way. You need to talk to how they're actually feeling.
You gotta